Good morning and welcome back to our environment. Today we're going to be talking about deforestation and what it means for our world. One of the most common misconceptions is that the Amazon rainforest is the world's lungs. While the Amazon is a very important part of our planet's ecosystem and home to many different species of wildlife, 50 to 80% of the world's oxygen actually comes from the ocean. The majority of this production is from oceanic plankton, all types of living organisms that photosynthesize, such as algae and bacteria, can provide us with oxygen. Even the smallest photosynthetic organism on the Earth produces 20% of the oxygen in our entire biosphere. That's a higher percentage than all the tropical rainforests on the land combined. However, that shouldn't make you any less worried about deforestation happening all over the world. The Amazon rainforest is important for reasons other than oxygen. In fact, quite the opposite. The Amazon is what's known as carbon sink, meaning it removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Due to the amount of deforestation that occurred in the last 50 or so years, 20% of the Amazon trees have been demolished, leaving us with rapid climate change and increased levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. Now let's see how many people know about this.
Do you know where most of the Earth's oxygen comes from?
I want to say trees, but is that wrong?
The majority of Earth's oxygen comes from the ocean.
Trees, I believe.
What do you know about deforestation, and do you know the direct effects of it?
There's habitat loss for animals. Cutting down the trees affects the carbon intake.
I know, obviously, it ruins various habitats for multiple species of animals.
With deforestation comes removal of wildlife, their natural environment, so then they kind of have nowhere to go.
Do you think that deforestation has a direct effect on climate change, and how?
Yes, deforestation does have a direct effect on climate change because the more trees you cut down, the less carbon that they're taking in from the atmosphere. Also, it's cutting down in biodiversity.
I'm not sure exactly how, but I would assume yes.
Yes, deforestation definitely has a direct effect. Ultimately, we got to find alternatives before we run out. And I feel like that's the story with most of the Earth's resources.
Not only does deforestation pose as a serious threat in terms of our oxygen and removing CO2 from our air, but it also poses as an even bigger threat to our tropical rainforests because they are home to much of the world's biodiversity.
Deforestation can lead to biodiversity loss when animal species that live in the trees no longer have their habitat, cannot relocate, and therefore become extinct. Deforestation can also lead to certain tree species permanently disappearing, which affects biodiversity of plant species in an environment. Deforestation also puts these forests at risk for desertification. It might seem like a large leap to picture a landscape going from lush forestry to sandy desert, but if we look a little closer at the definition of desertification, it makes a little more sense. Desertification describes the process of natural vegetation being removed from an area more quickly than plants and animals can adapt. Loss of vegetation, such as trees, shrubs, and flowers, is the leading factor in the desertification process. Iceland's mission is to support growing more and better forests, to make land more productive and able to tolerate the pressures that we put on it. Icelanders plant about 3 million seedlings every year. However, it is much more challenging for the Icelandic forestry to plant species of trees that are able to acclimate to the ever-changing climate. There are crossbreeding testing programs taking place all across Europe to produce trees that will be able to take root and persevere through the changing climates. If more nations followed suit in recovering their forests and growing new ones, our world and our environment would be off to a great start in repairing loss of biodiversity as well as putting a stop to the threat that deforestation is to one of our air sources.